Yeah, what happened with the
In Tampa?
hotels?
No, I don't. The hotel's acquiesced. I'm still having a problem with the rental car company.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
What do they expect?
Just tell the credit card company.
Yeah, I got a hold of the credit card company. They couldn't believe it. They were giving me grief. And the company, the office is based in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm on the phone for 1.5 last night, and they're like, "What hurricane? There's no hurricane. We didn't we weren't told about it. Go online, you morons."
The other end of your state, you idiots.
We're being recorded, guys.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, my son said the same thing. What hurricane?
Right.
Okay. Welcome to, hold on. Realize I look like I'm in a haunted house. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel, blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay, so up to page 551. Right, Alan?
Is that yeah, I believe so. Yes, 551.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
You have to fasten your seatbelts for this one.
Sorry.
Take a deep breath. Okay, so this parsha discusses kosher animals, fish, birds, and locust. The Arizal will trace the source of each of these groups. In Jewish law and the Torah, there are two types of animals, generally translated as domesticated animals, such as cows, sheep, and goats, and non-domesticated animals, such as deer. So it's behema for domesticated animals and chaya for deer.
Mm-hmm.
Later, not this week, but probably next week, and in general, it does. There is strong evidence that the word behema for domesticated animals includes non-domesticated animals as deer also, but if we mention both, then we have domesticated animals and non-domesticated animals. In our book, he translates it here as the domesticated animals as cattle and non-domesticated animals as beasts. Just when we come across those terms, you'll know what those are. Two.
I have a more obvious question. May I? So you're talking about animals, you're talking about fish, you're talking about birds. Those are species. There's also a species known as insects, but it doesn't say insects. It concentrates on one type of insect, locust. Why?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. I didn't think of it. My guess,
the only kosher
most likely of all, because we're only talking about kosher things here.
Kosher things that we eat.
We're only talking about stuff that's kosher. So the Torah says of all the insects, there are locusts that are kosher. So when we talk about fish, we're talking about kosher fish. Talking about the animals, only kosher animals. Talking about the insects, it's going to be only the kosher ones, which are probably just locusts.
So what makes a locust kosher?
That's an excellent question. You could read in the Torah and study the Rashi. What does the Torah say about it?
It just says they're kosher.
No.
No, there's certain kinds of locusts, as I remember. They're specific.
Right, it's
very
not
specific.
all locusts.
It's not all locusts.
Not all locusts.
Right. It's a specific, it's specific, as I remember.
Rudy, you poked a sleeping bear.
Okay, that's good. I know it's the big ones. The big ones that were found in Egypt.
Some, certain kind of locusts.
only this may you eat from among all flying. They use the word teeming. The Hebrew word is a inclusive word. They translate as teeming creatures that walk on four legs. One that has jumping legs above its legs with which to spring upon the earth. You may eat these from among them. The arbe, the salam, chargol, and chagav. Every flying teeming thing that has four legs, it's an abomination to you. Rashi states only firm traditions suffice to permit such consumption. Thank you, because it's impossible to determine which are kosher solely through their physical characteristics. With the passage of time, such traditions have grown virtually extinct. There are some Moroccan and Yemenite Jews who have preserved their ancient traditions regarding kosher insects. However, or Hachaim writes, when he was in Morocco, he protested against the consumption of any insects because of the great difficulty in identifying the few kosher species from the vast number of non-kosher species. Okay, so the Torah gives a few signs, but it's been lost to us 1,000 years ago. We already lost it, and even before.
As here, the Torah states that kosher locusts have four wings that cover most of their body, four legs for walking, and two upper legs with joints for leaping. The Torah also says four types of desert locust are kosher: red, yellow, spotted,
colors.
white. That's basically it.
Yep.
We're not really going to have to worry about it because we're going to have lab-grown meat only.
Locusts are considered parve. That's interesting.
Parve.
Yeah,
Wow.
could be used
Like
for
fish, like a fish.
And also there are, by the way, there are differences between like fish, thank you. There are differences between the domesticated animals and non-domesticated animals and halacha. Domesticated animals, such as cows, there are certain fats that may not be eaten. And we had it last week, 2 weeks ago. Suet, they called it suet. That may not be eaten. And non-domesticated, like deers, it is permissible. And and when they're slaughtered, so birds and chaya, non-domesticated, the blood has to be covered, but not for domesticated. So we actually have different halachas for those two groups. So man and creature have their source in Atzilus. We're going to show the source of man is, generally speaking, in very general terms, from Ze'er Anpin, which are Sphirot numbers 4 to 9 of Atzilus. We know what those are. Non-domesticated and domesticated animals are from Nukva. And fish, locusts, and birds are from Yesod of Ze'er Anpin. So of these, Ze'er Anpin, man, is the highest. The Yesod is the bottom of Ze'er Anpin. That's fish, locusts, and birds. And then the lower than that is Nukva, and that's the animals. And we're going to get more into detail in this. We're not done yet. Okay, ready for more? 3. Yesod, the 6th sphera of Ze'er Anpin, is the interface between Ze'er Anpin and Nukva, the 7th sphera. Therefore, counting from Ze'er Anpin. Therefore, Yesod can be considered the 7th sphera because he's the one who interfaces with Nukva. Fish and Dug, fish, which is Dug in Hebrew, is from Yesod. The gematria of Dug, fish, is 7.
4 and 3.
4 and 3. Okay. This is all in the first paragraph. There's more. 4. The Talmud raves over clever sayings of children regarding the Aleph Bays that may sound like nursery rhymes or playground chants. It's like that type of thing. It's like kids have these clever, cute sayings. I don't know, Ring Around the Rosie or some jump rope rhymes that they do. This is Shabbos 104a, and I would suggest that all of you, if you have a chance, to look it up. It's a very interesting passage in the Gemara. Here we're just going to quote the first 1 or 2 paragraphs. The rabbi said to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, young students came to the study hall today and said things the likes of which were not stated even in the days of Yehoshua ben Nun. What did they say? That Aleph Beis means Aluf Bina, which means to learn insight. It's not the most common terms. I think it's a verse somewhere. Gimel Dalid is Gimel Dalim, which means aid the needy, or to give, to transfer, we have Gemilus Chesed, means to do kindness to someone, to be a purveyor of kindness. The saying from the children goes on to teach something about all of the letters and the final letters and combinations of letters, like I think Atbash, if I remember correctly. It's very interesting. And what's very interesting in this, that it's from the young students, and the rabbi said that they haven't heard stuff like this since the days of Yehoshua ben Nun, which was probably 1,500 years later. 800. Yeah, probably well over 1,000, maybe 1,300 years later. So, very interesting. This Gemara is quoted often and considered to actually have deep mystical meaning, even though it's just from the young students. So the 2 letters that spell fish, Doug, imply, like we just said, Gimel Dalim, aid the needy, or to purvey to the destitute. The Gimel conveys to the Dalit. Okay, there you go. The Gimel conveys to the Dalit. One meaning of Dalit is destitute. Yesod conveys the divine light of Zerampin to Malchus. So Yesod is in the place of Gimel, and in this case, the Dalit, the needy, the destitute, is Malchus. So when we say Gimel Dalim, it means Yesod conveys the divine light of Zerampin to Malchus, and like we just said, that fish are from Yesod. So the word for fish, Doug, implies that the fish is from Yesod, which purveys to Nukva.
Mhm.
I hope that was explained clear. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, now Alan, you're able to read, okay?
Yeah, my eyes are okay. My mouth's okay.
Okay, I was just checking.
Yeah.
Okay, 551.
The origin of species. These are the animals you may eat from among all the animals on earth. Man derives in general from Zeranpin, while the beasts and cattle derive from Nukva of Zeranpin, and fish, locusts, and fowl derive from Yesod of Zeranpin. For this reason, the numerical value of the word for fish, dag, is 7, for Yesod is the 7th sphera. Furthermore, Yesod gives to the poor, Gomel Dalim, and the initials of this phrase in Hebrew are the same letters used to spell the word for fish. Yesod is actually the 6th sphera of the Midos, but since Yesod couples with Malchus, the 7th sphera, It may be considered in this context the seventh sphere as well. Malchus is considered the poor, since it possesses no intrinsic content of its own, as we have explained previously. Since the content of the preceding spheros is funneled through Yesod to Malchus, Yesod may be spoken of as giving to the poor.
Okay, good, thank you. I think we had somewhere else that they called Yesod the seventh for the same reason. Now, Chesed means unlimited divine light, kindness, that flows through Atzilus. Therefore, it's compared to water, because this flowing idea. Fish are associated specifically with the Chesed within Yesod. This is why fish live in water. So let me restate that. The fish, we said, are from Yesod. But in Yesod, there is Chesed, there's kindness, and there is Gevura, there is severity or discipline. The fish are associated with Yesod, but within Yesod, it's Chesed. And therefore, they live in water. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Specifically, fish derive from the states of Chesed given to Yesod for its own purposes. This is why they live in the water. Certain aspects of Chesed are merely channeled through Yesod, while others become part of Yesod itself. Since Yesod is principally a sephira of transmission, it reflects the giving aspect of Chesed. In the imagery of Kabbalah, water is a metaphor for Chesed, and therefore a manifestation of Chesed, since water always flows downward and is the source of life.
Okay, the way I was been thinking about it the last few weeks, last few years, is you have could be like water or electricity. You have a power station, or you have a source of water that gets pumped. But along that way, you have either transformers, you have things. Around here, we have a number of pumping stations. I think we have 16 pumping stations from our reservoir that feeds Springfield and the surrounding towns. From Huntington, Massachusetts. Can't remember the name of the reservoir now. So so there are pumping stations that locally that again pump that water, and that would be like the Yesod that's again pumping the water is flowing into it. So it's it has this function of moving the flow along, even though it might not necessarily be the source. So next, that is fish. Fish are from Chesed within Yesod. On the other hand, locusts are associated with Gevura within Yesod. Gevura, meaning severity or discipline, is associated with an upward movement, uplifting from below, as opposed to the downward movement of Chesed, the conveyance from above. I'm going to write downward, change that word to flow. Movement of locusts is an upward jump. In Hashem's directions to Moshe to bring the plague of locusts, Hashem says, extend your hand, the locust will ascend. V'ya'al, locusts will rise over Egypt. This is because the locusts are associated with the Gevura within Yesod, which is restriction, and in movements, it is from below ascending, going up. Okay, 552, Alan.
Locusts derive from the states of Gevura within Yesod as they return upward. This is the mystical meaning of the verse. Extend your hand over the locusts and they will ascend, for they manifest the principle of ascent. In order to transmit properly, Yesod must evince Gevura as well as Chesed, since unmitigated and unrestricted giving is never effective. This element of withdrawal or restraint within Yesod is embodied in the locusts.
Okay, thanks. You see on the top line, it says, as the Gevura, states the Gevura, as they return upward. I don't remember when, but we did have this, that's how they get sweetened. From Malchus, they rise up and they get sweetened. The states of Gevura get sweetened as they rise up from Malchus. Could be it was by the flood or somewhere else. Okay, 8. We said that birds are also from Yesod. So we have fish from Yesod, locust from Yesod. Birds are also from Yesod. Now we're going to go into a whole long thing here about the birds. The Hebrew word for bird, oaf, has a gematria of 156, the same as Yosef. And Yosef, of course, is associated with Yesod. Jim, if you remember, you gave my son Yosef for his bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
You gave him a gift for the gematria of his name.
Yes.
9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yosef, of course, is associated with Yesod. Like locust, birds are associated with Gevura within Yesod and fly upward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Alan?
The numerical
The numerical
value of the Hebrew word for fowl, oaf, is equal to that of the word Yosef. Yosef personified the Sephira of Yesod. Therefore, birds fly, for they too manifest the principle of ascent as the states of Gevura return and fly upward.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 shepherds of Yisrael, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David, in this order, correspond to and personify the 7 emotional sephiros from Chesed to Malchus. Yosef personifies Yesod chiefly because he, 1, sustained and provided for the entire kingdom, Malchus, of Mitzrayim during the years of famine, and 2, preserved his sexual integrity, sexuality being associated with Yesod, the sphere of coupling, even while immersed in the depraved culture of Mitzrayim.
Okay, now some very interesting things here on birds. As we said, it gets very involved. As we said, Yesod is the interface that conveys from Zeir Anpin to Nukva. In order to do this, it has to be turned on. When it's turned on, it's called live. Let me put that in Hebrew. Chai, live, much as we refer to a live electric wire or a broadcast that is live. We had this also, I think, back by the, I think this we did it by the flood. Yitzchak is Kate's Chai. Yesod is associated with the reproductive organ, as we've had many times. Much, probably the male one. Much earlier in the book, we've seen that the reproductive organ in an aroused state is called live, and at rest, it's called dead. This is why locusts and fish, who are from Yesod, which is called live, are not slaughtered. They're eaten as is, because because the Yesod is high, is live, they, I guess, don't need that elevation of being slaughtered. They can be eaten the way it is. Birds are also from Yesod. The Arizal will explain later why they need to be slaughtered. And they're not in the same group like fish and locust. This is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Alan, continue. Since
fish and locusts derive from the sphere of Yesod, which is referred to as being alive, they do not require ritual slaughter as do beasts and cattle, but rather only gathering up. Man, being created in the image of Hashem, reflects both in his body and soul the fine structure of the spheres, and so the structure the spheres assume when they form a partuf. The correspondence between the limbs of the body and the spheres is as follows. Keser is the skull. Chochmah, the right lobe of the brain. Bina, left lobe of the brain. As, rear occipital lobe of the brain. Chesed, the right arm. Gevura, the left arm. Tferes, torso. Netzach, right leg, right kidney, right testicle or ovary. Hod, left leg, left kidney, left testicle or ovary. Yesod, reproductive organs. And Malchus, mouth. Yesod thus corresponds to the reproductive organ, and Yesod of Zer Anpin specifically to the male reproductive organ. Again, this is because Yesod is the sephira of transference between one partzuf and the next.
Mhm.
In order for Yesod to transfer the content of the preceding spheros, it must be properly focused on its goal. We see this in day-to-day life. A person cannot communicate effectively with another person if he is distracted and his mind is elsewhere. Physically, the male reproductive organ cannot transfer the semen within it, nor can the female reproductive organ receive the semen from the male unless they are properly focused on each other. This focus is termed in Kabbalah being alive, just as in halacha, the erect male reproductive organ is called alive, and in its flaccid form, it is called dead. Similarly, effective communication is characterized by animation and excitement, as opposed to a deadpan style that does not excite the listener. Yesod then, at least when acting effectively, is called the live sephira. Thus, the animals, fish and locusts that derive from this sephira are considered to possess intrinsic life force, and therefore do not have to undergo any ritual process to prepare them for Jewish consumption. Note that the Arizal does not yet explain why fowl, even though deriving from the same sephira, do require ritual slaughter.
Okay, now, thank you. Yesod is called live, like we just said, not nukva. We're in number 10. Let's go back to number 2. Number 2 said B. The animals are from nukva. Okay, go back to 10. Yesod is called live, not nukva. Animals, domesticated and non-domesticated, are from nukva. They therefore need to be slaughtered in order to be eaten. Jim, please continue. 553 in the middle.
This is not the case with beasts and cattle. They derive from Nukva Zeranpin and therefore require ritual slaughter. Beasts and cattle are considered a lower level of life than fowl and locusts. In order for their life force to be properly assimilated, it must undergo the additional rectification process of ritual slaughter. Through this process, the life force inherent in the animal flesh is rendered capable of being absorbed into spirituality through being eaten by the Jew. The Arizal now turns to the discussion to the subject of birds.
Okay, 11. Locust, fish, and birds are from Yesod. Okay, we've said that. Locusts and fish are from Yesod of Atzilus. We said locust from the Chesed. No, fish from the Chesed, they're in water within Yesod, and locust from Gevura within Yesod.
Right.
But they are from Atzilus, the highest stage of creation. Angels that have wings like birds are the birds of Atzilus. In the book of Daniel, he says, I was still speaking in prayer when the man Gabriel was lifted in flight, approaching me. If you guys weren't aware, the angel Gabriel is specifically mentioned in the book of Daniel. He says, Mu'af bi'af. Here it says, was lifted in flight. Mu'af, approaching me. That's the same word, off, for a bird. Mu'af bi'af, very unusual term with unusual vowels. Physical birds are physical birds, not the angel birds. Physical birds are from Yesod, but from the lower three stages of creation, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So the fish and locust are from Atzilus, Yesod of Atzilus. Birds are from Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, the lower three stages of creation. Okay, continue, Jim.
Now, it is the angels that issue from the Yesod of Zeranphin of Atzilus. These angels are the spiritual birds that derive from this level. As it is said of the angel Gabriel, he was lifted in flight. In contrast, physical birds derive from the Yesod of Zeranphin of the three lower worlds, Berea, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Whereas the physical fish and locust derive from the Yesod of Zeranphin of Atzilus, fowl derive only from the projection of this level onto the lower spiritual worlds. The difference between Atzilus and the three subsequent worlds is that the pervading consciousness of the level of Atzilus is that of total submersion in the divine presence. Inhabitants of this world do not conceive themselves as independent beings, but rather as aspects of divinity. In the lower worlds, the pervading consciousness is that of selfhood. The inhabitants of these worlds are aware of themselves as independent entities, albeit subject to divine rule. This is indicated by the fact that fish must remain in the water to live, that is, their existence is dependent upon almost always being submerged within the ocean, just as inhabitants of the world of Atzilus live totally immersed in divine consciousness.
Everyone get those last few lines?
Yep.
So next time that we go to Tashlich, you stand at the water, at the pond or lake, and which we know should have fish in it.
Yeah.
And we say the Tashlich there. Keep in mind that the fish are immersed in the water because they come from Atzilus, which is an immersion of godliness. And perhaps when you're in the immersion of godliness, it's a good way that our sins get overlooked, get washed away. They become totally enveloped by the godliness and purified, become not visible.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have that in mind by 12. Our sages say birds were created from the mire. It's a good word. A mixture of water and earth. From mud or mire. A mixture of water and earth. It's mentioned, I think, in Rashi, in the Chumash.
Mm-hmm.
Of the four stages of creation, Atzilus is in a spot of its own. It is the emanator. It represents the purveyor of godliness, like a male that transmits. The lower three stages are the emanatees. Word does not like that. The beneficiaries of divine energy that flows from Atzilus. In this sense, all three lower stages bear similarity to Nukva, the female component.
Mm-hmm.
This is what our sages mean when they say that birds are a product of water. That's, we said before, Yesod, because water is the flow of divine energy, so that's male. Mm-hmm. And the earth, the birds are a product of the water and earth, water referring to the Yesod and the male component, and earth which is the lower three stages and the female component.
Mhm.
Because they are from Yesod of the lower three stages of creation. So they got part male, part female.
The mixture.
Yeah,
This,
not transition.
no,
Just part. They have a male component, a female component,
Yeah.
and that's what it means that they're a mixture of water and earth. They're from Yesod, but from the lower three stages, from Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. Okay, we are on the bottom of 553. I'm sorry, top of 554.
this is the mystical meaning of our sage's statement that fowl were created from the mire. That is the mixture of water and earth. 4. Okay. Zeranpin Bria, which is male, exists in the female world. For all of the lower worlds are legions of the Nukva of Zeranpin of Atsilis. Every world is created out of the Nukva, female partner of Zeranpin, of the world preceding it, just as a physical child is born of its parents, just as the parents, particularly the mother, must rear and educate the new child. Nukva of Zeranpin of any particular world is entrusted with the task of disseminating the light or consciousness of its world into the worlds below it, inasmuch as all three lower worlds, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, share the common denominator of being worlds of independent consciousness. They may be grouped together and be considered to have emerged as a group from the womb of Nukva of Zeranpin of Atsilis, since the lower three worlds then assume the role of the recipient vis-a-vis Atsilis, in that they are intended to absorb as much possible of the consciousness pertaining to the world of Atsilis. They are considered feminine and masculine, considered feminine, masculine relative to each other.
That's a
Well,
mistake. Take out the word
yeah.
it.
I take out it. That doesn't make sense. They're considered masculine and feminine. I think it doesn't have a place there.
Okay.
While water is a mystical referent, either reference, whatever, to the Sephira Chesed, earth refers to the Sephira of Malchus, the lowest of the 10 Sephirot, and the allegorical floor of the world it belongs to.
Okay. 13. Now, divine energy of Chesed flows through Atzilus into Nukva of Atzilus. These states of Chesed then flow into the lower three stages of creation. At creation, Hashem says, the birds will increase on earth. V'ha'of yirev v'aretz, v'yerev v'akar yom chamishi. It was evening, it was day, day 5, the 5th day. This means they are a product of the earth. When it says the birds will increase on earth, it means they're a product of earth, that which means the lower three stages of creation. It also says at the beginning of the 5th day, let the waters teem with living creatures that teem and birds that fly. Let the water, so it says let the waters teem with living creatures. Obviously that refers to fish and the creatures that live in the water. But it continues, it says, and birds that fly. What do birds that fly have to do with water? This indicates that the birds are also a product of the water,
Right.
which we said it before is associated with chesed within Yesod.
Right.
And this is why birds have scales like fish on their feet. Not sure what that means. Could be just their feet have all those little lines in it like scales, and they also fly like locust. So in the Torah, we find that it says that birds will increase on earth, but also that they should be produced by the water. So the water is the chesed part, and the other part is the from the lower, I guess, because of the lower three stages. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
It thus follows the lower worlds are the extracted states of Hesed, after they've been processed by Nukva Zerampin of Atsilis. This is the mystical meaning of the verse, and the birds will multiply on earth, implying that they are created from the earth. But since it is also stated, let the water swarm with birds, it means that the birds were created as well from the water of the earth, that is, states of chesed within the yosod of Zerampin. Therefore, they have scales on their feet like fish on one hand, yet they fly like locusts on the other. Fowl were thus created for both chesed and gevura elements, therefore possess fish-like and locust-like characteristics. Since they derive not directly from the world of Atsilis, but rather from Atsilis as it has been processed, diminished, diluted into the lower worlds, they require ritual slaughtering in order to be eaten.
Okay, now 14. Man is from Zerampin and Nukva. Zerampin and Nukva are known as the son and daughter of the intellect, Abba and Ima. Just as Zerampin is sustained by Bina, man is a mammal and sustained by milk from his or her mother. Go ahead, continue it, Jim.
Now, man is a mammal. He produces and suckles milk. This is because Zerampin and the Nukva of Atsilis suckle from Ima. Man derives directly from the Zerampin of Atsilis and its female partner, Nukva. These two partsafim, which together comprise the emotions of the world of Atsilis and its capacity for self-expression, emerge from the womb of Ima, the parts of Bina, just as an emotion or means of expression is derived from an intellectual idea that gives rise to it. Here, again, once Ima has produced the emotional reaction, Zerampin, and its expression, Nukva, it nurtures them, ensuring that they indeed properly emotionalize and express the idea and concept they derive from. The physical manifestation of this principle in man is the nourishment the infant derives from its mother's milk.
Okay, 15. Domesticated and non-domesticated animals are also mammals. They are associated with Nukva, which is sustained from Ima. Fish, birds, and locusts are not mammals. They are from Yesod within Ima, and Ima has less of an impact on them because Yesod is further removed from Ima. I don't mean less of an impact than Malchus. Yesod is certainly closer than Malchus. But whatever it is, with Malchus, this effect or impact from Ima, Bina is there, but Yesod within Zerampin is at the end of Zerampin, and that is, in a sense, beyond where the scope of where Ima has an effect on.
Okay. In beasts and cattle. So beasts and cattle are also mammals, for they also derive from Nukva. In contrast to fish, locusts and birds, locusts and birds produce no milk, and they do not suckle, for they derive from the Yesod of Ima, and Ima therefore does not suckle them, for as is said in the Zohar, Ima extends only as far as Hod. Although beasts and cattle are not created in the image of God and therefore do not reflect completely the phenomenology of Atsilis, the fact they originate in Nukva and Nukva suckles from Ima is enough to make them milk-producing, milk-suckling animals, that is, mammals. Fish, locusts, and birds are not processed by Nukva in the same way beasts and cattle are, as we explained. Therefore, they do not possess this quality. They are derived directly from the Sephirah of Yesod, whether it's the Yesod of Zerampin, as stated above, or Yesod of Ima, as stated here. The intellect, Bina extends only as far as Hod. This means that even after a person has progressed in the intellectual development of an idea, from the intellectual development of an idea into the emotional response phase, which is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, he can still recharge the batteries of the emotional response from the residual memory of the original idea. The same is true once he has passed from the emotional response phase into the initial stage of active transmission phase, Netzach Hod, and is involved in overcoming obstacles to the transmission of a new idea, his new idea, Netzach, and making it relevant to its target audience, Hod. Once he's passed this phase, however, into the transmission in which he must focus entirely on the go, that is becoming totally resonant with a target audience, Yesod, he must give up any memory he still has of the original inspiration that accomplished his experience with the original idea. Were he to retain this memory, it would derail and distract his attention from its now crucial object, that is the recipient. As we said before, this focus is necessary for Yesod to be alive. Therefore, Bina is said to extend only as far as Hod, but not as far as Yesod.
Okay, thanks. 16. Yesod is so far removed from Ima that it's called an orphan. Yosef, the paradigm of Yesod, is described as Yefei Toar Vifei Mar'eh, good appearance and good looking. The initials of the 4 words are Yasom, orphan.
In this sense, Yesod may be considered an orphan since it does not suckle from the milk of Ima. This is alluded to in the fact that the verse describing Joseph, he is said to be of good appearance and form, Yefei Toar Vifei Mar'eh. The initials of this phrase spell the Hebrew word for orphan, Yatom. Joseph is the personification of the sphere of Yesod, as mentioned above.
And 17, even though birds are from Yesod, like fish and locusts, they need to be slaughtered to be eaten, since they are also a product of earth, as we explained.
Therefore, fowl requires ritual slaughter, since it has an element of earth in it. It was created from the mire. There you go.
Okay, and this is where we're going to stop.
Yeah.
This is the next thing. What we just read today is from Sefer Halikutim. The next part quotes from 2. The right side is same book, Sefer Likutim. The left side is Shar HaMitzvahs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think it's 8 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 8 pages. There's a lot here.
And then we go to the back of the book.
Well, and it continues the same chapter.
Yeah, same chapter.
But we have 8 pages. We'll have to see how we're going to divide that up.
All right.
All right. Well, actually, if it's the same chapter, if it's a continuation, we might do. Might just do 5 or 6 next week, and then afterwards we continue on to the back. Let me stop the share.
Right, we get our water from Cobble Mountain.
Kabul Mountain.
Kabul